Hello, Internet. It has been a long time since I've done one of these, since I haven't really been reviewing movies much for a long time. But if you're looking at the title of the video, if it's either above or below or sideways, if YouTube decides to change it yet again.
Or if you're a person who was in the comment section for the Ghostbusters video, you're probably going to take interest in this one.
Probably. Although I'd say what we're talking about is probably what's going to drive more of the traffic.
Exactly. No, like this is probably. I think the last time that we actually got together and did this, aside from Rhapsody in Cinema, was the Ghostbusters review, which didn't go so well.
Yeah, but luckily we're talking about something that doesn't have as much baggage associated with it. At least not in that way. It's got other baggage, but it's a better kind of baggage. I mean, Ghostbusters is like it has like the cheap baggage that you get at like the DI, whereas this is like it's like a Gucci bag.
The other thing I was thinking about is like the hype. Is it equal or similar? I would actually dare say that Ghostbusters was probably bigger hype than this.
Yes, bigger hype, but that's because this is a very niche focus, which, again, if you haven't read the title, we're talking about Dragon Ball Super Broly. That is the film we both saw. And so, seeing that we're both Dragon Ball fans, although oddly enough, I left my Dragon Ball shirt in the wash, and I don't have a Dragon Ball hoodie yet.
I haven't had one in years. Like, people keep on telling me I need to go and get that Goku shirt where you just have the emblem on it. No, I have to get something with Vegeta on it.
Yeah, and, well, that stuff isn't cheap.
And here's a fun fact. We actually, technically, I think it made the podcast. We did a review of Resurrection F with Aldo Gomez. I don't think it's up on the RSS feed anymore, but it should be archived somewhere. Where we did actually do a review of Resurrection F. Spoiler alert, we weren't too keen on it.
Yeah. And so, to kind of start off from the perspectives, in Adam's case, you've seen more of Super, so you followed kind of the episodes a bit more.
Yes, I followed it sporadically. Occasionally, when there would be big, I didn't wait for the dub simply because I don't know the dub schedule. And actually, if you follow like the Funimation app, I think they just barely finished Goku Black. And so at that point, the stuff that really kind of caught my interest wasn't that; it was the Tournament of Power. And so I've seen episodes here and there. Enough to say, like, yes, you can avoid the first two arcs, which are just basically a retelling of Battle of Gods and Resurrection F. You can avoid those. The movies tell the story probably. Battle of Gods, certainly the movie is better than the saga. And Resurrection F, better in some ways and worse in others.
Yeah.
But, like, Universe 6 arc, I saw that. Goku Black, I've seen all the way through. It's Tournament of Power that things got kind of etchy because, you know, the tournament's just going to be a huge, I think the last time I got clocked at like 15 to 20 episodes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ground to cover. So I at least know the major moments that happened in Tournament of Power and obviously following the coverage here for Broly.
Yeah, and as for me, I haven't really watched much of Super. Like, I've seen Resurrection F, I've seen Battle of Gods, but I didn't really follow Super at all, even subbed, because, well...
Do you want me to spoil it for you?
Well, I mean, I already know about like things like Jiren and Ultra Instinct and all of that stuff. I did the basic wiki walk.
Spoiler. It's all Goku's fault.
Yeah.
Like, 80% of Super, like, most of the events surrounding it are somehow Goku's fault. Like, the only way I can say aside from that is Goku Black, but everybody's still blaming that on Goku because it's an evil Goku.
Yeah.
So, spoiler alert, it's all Goku's fault.
Yeah, that pretty much just summarizes everything, I think even right up to like the Cell Saga kind of.
Yeah, but it's to the point where like even like Vegeta in the Buu Saga was just like, oh, Kakarot, you know, like all that. The only people that are doing that in Super are Roshi, Tien, and Krillin. Everybody else is Dad. Goku!
Yeah. I mean, even when you consider even the Saiyan Saga is Goku's fault because Raditz came to Earth because Goku was sent to Earth.
Pretty much, but like even then it's like, you know Goku, he always causes the... No, not in this one. Like, even Beerus gets legitimately mad at him enough times that I'm like, how is Earth not around? Because we have to have run out of food that Beerus is interested in.
Well, I mean, given the amount of fusion cuisines that emerge...
Yeah, exactly. That they always find something new, and then at that point, Bulma brings them down and appeases them yet again.
Yeah, that's usually the way to do it. But I think that for Broly, this is probably one of the few times where it isn't Goku's fault. Like, this is like the...
No, it technically is not.
Yeah.
And that's actually in Goku's favor.
Yeah. I mean, technically it would be Vegeta's fault being the cause of the initial conflict.
More appropriately, King Vegeta the Third.
Yes.
As we now have canon that the Vegeta we know and love is technically Vegeta the Fourth.
Yes. And if you haven't seen in the titles and descriptions, we will be going into spoiler territory because by this point, I know at least in Utah, the day we're filming this is the day, kind of the end of the theatrical run of Broly.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that in territories aside from here, it is getting more showings.
Mm-hmm.
But here, it's done. Like, the anime fans have gone to see it, and unfortunately, like, our local theaters don't have enough faith in it.
Oh, yeah, like, they limited it to, like, the specific ones where they tend to draw the most traffic, where there was, like... With Cinemark, there are like 2 specific theaters that's where they do their anime showings, their Ghibli showings.
Yeah,
it's those 2 major theaters. I'm refraining from saying them.
And usually this comes through like Fathom events or something like that. And Fathom only works with Cinemark. They won't work with any of the other theater chains out here.
Whereas this time it wasn't a Fathom event. This was just Funimation and...
That was the shocker to me. It wasn't Fathom.
Yeah, this was just Funimation and Fox distributing it because people forget Fox still has the movie rights to Dragon Ball.
Yep.
Much to all of our chagrin, but I think they learned their lesson from Evolution.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, sweet. But we're here talking
We've
about...
now hit the lowest low of this review, so let's go ahead and go to the highest of highs.
Yeah, so... Yeah, we're not talking about Evolution, and I've already reviewed Evolution, so I don't think we need to go down that road again.
Let us forever mourn the career of James Marsters. He was amazing as Spike, and he sucked as Piccolo.
Yeah,
but it wasn't his fault. He did not suck as Piccolo.
Well, if anyone got hit worse, it was Justin Chaplin.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no one has seen height nor hair.
Did Chow Yun-Fat even get affected by that movie?
No, because he's Chow Yun-Fat.
Yeah, exactly. He's Chow Yun-fucking-Fat. as somebody pointed out to me one time.
Yeah, like... But yeah, with Dragon Ball Super Broly,
yes.
To kind of summarize for people who have been living under a rock and aren't familiar with what kind of this movie is setting out to do, it's basically taking what we've seen from the Broly movies and the Bardock special, and basically Toriyama saying, okay, here's how they would fit in the story proper.
It's basically a complete retcon on the origins of Broly, the origins of the Saiyans in particular, and their interactions with Frieza. Before we get into the movie, should we get into our opinions on Broly as a character?
Well,
so like my opinion on very simply this: I've only seen 2 of the movies, and one of them I haven't even seen all the way through. I've seen the first Broly. I saw pieces of Broly Second Coming. I said fuck it to Bio Broly. I'm like, no, this is enough. Broly, not all that interesting as a character to me. And part of that is because of the thing that everybody screams about is his obsession with Kakarot. And the fact that the only reason he hates Kakarot is because, as Team 4-Star put it, all he did was he cried for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Welcome to parenthood. Like, just 3 hours?
Yeah.
Wow, you walked off scot-free, Paragus.
Yeah, and I mean, the original conceit was interesting, where they had the idea of, the idea of a Super Saiyan being a legend, and they're thinking, okay, what if there actually was a legendary Super Saiyan?
And he was a threat. Like, that actually was pretty cool, like an evil Super Saiyan. But, I mean, that kind of went in line with all the people that wanted evil Goku. Spoiler alert, evil Goku's happened more times than you think it has.
Yeah. I think like Goku Black is like the only canon version, because you've got like versions. I mean,
you have what's his bucket from Tree of Might.
Yeah, Turles.
And
then there was the Ginyu swap.
The Ginyu swap, which I would bet was probably. I like Goku Black, but I like Ginyu Goku a little bit better, just because the Ginyu personality worked in that body.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the few things that I do appreciate the Resurrection F arc in Super, is that they kind of gave resolution to Captain Ginyu, and they brought him back.
Yeah.
Only to kill him.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But yeah, so, like, we've had that evil Goku kind of thing, but Broly was... I mean, I hate to go down this road, but he was basically a redneck anime fan's wet dream.
Yeah.
Like, jacked up to the hilt and a Super Saiyan to boot, and it took four Super Saiyans to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, with all of them pooling their power. I will tell you right here now, the one thing that I walk away liking from the original Broly movie is the interaction between Broly and Vegeta. And this is one of those things I love that TFS brought it back, is what is a king to a god? What is a god to a non-believer? I have always loved that line interaction between the two of them. And I'm so glad that TFS brought that in, or Team 4-Star brought it in. But Broly after that, just... I'm not saying he was the best utilized in that movie, but then Second Coming, and later on, from what I hear in Bio Broly...
Yeah, Bio Broly, I argue
or as a lot of people call him Swamp Broly, or Broly Thing.
He's Broly in name only, because Broly is barely in it, and they try to just like, oh, but it's like a monster created from Broly cells, but, I mean, literally... If they change it to something else completely, it wouldn't make a difference. Like, if they didn't call it Bio Broly, it would...
The only thing I've heard that you can take away from Bio Broly is that there are amazing interactions between Hercule here, but it's Mr. Satan, and Android 18. That's really it. In fact, the two things that dragged... And I can attest to this in Second Coming, which is why I don't really like it, is Trunks and Goten. At that point, they do kind of drag down those movies, because they are until Gohan arrives in Second Coming, they are the Saiyans you interact with, and in Bio Broly, there isn't even Gohan to save you.
No, and the real kicker is that literally at the end of Bio Broly, they have a whole thing of, oh, Broly's rampaging in the afterlife and destroying certain parts of it.
Yes!
And literally Goku's just like, oh, wait, Broly's doing this? I better go deal with it. I'm just like, why was this not the movie?
Yeah,
what the hell, Toei?
Yeah, exactly. Why was that not the deal? I mean, for crying out loud, if Broly was canon... he at least would have made the Super 17 saga and GT more interesting, you know?
Yeah, that's a whole separate can of worms.
Well, that's in my opinion, like, I'm not the biggest GT hater, but I do tend to like Super 17 a lot more than people do. And one of the reasons I like it is because they go to hell. And they go to hell to take care of, Cell and Frieza and Nappa, and all of the villains are back in the Earth, and the only way to be able to solve it is going to hell, which eventually leads to the creation of Super 17. But it's, like, cool to be able to see Vegeta interacting with Nappa after so long, and just, snap of his finger, Vegeta kills Nappa again.
Yeah, and so that's kind of, at least with how Broly, he kind of just more or less became, well, walking fan service, because when you consider the amount of games that came out after Broly.
Like, how many iterations did he, like, is there technically a Super Saiyan 3 Broly?
I know there's a 4. In Raging Blast, there is.
I know in 4 there is. There's a Super Saiyan 4 equivalent of Broly.
I don't think they've done Super Saiyan 4 Broly, but I know...
They have, at least in, like, trading card form.
Okay, trading cards, yeah. But I know in the video games like Raging Blast 2 with their what-if scenarios, they have Super Saiyan 3 Broly.
And I remember when... this is going to date me horribly, but you remember when they were talking about DragonBall AF?
Mm-hmm.
They were, like, when you read a lot of the rumors that were happening for that, there was a full-on Broly arc for that. Which is how Goku and Vegeta attain Super Saiyan 5, which is, like... I'll show you, or I'll link you the image so you can put it up in the video, but it's like this weird Saiyan garb and silver thing that Goku wears.
Oddly enough, that image that people kind of cite for Dragon Ball AF wasn't actually meant to be...
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not meant to be an image of Goku. It was from a fan project, and it was meant to be a different character entirely. And it's funny with that you mentioned Dragon Ball AF, because there was an actual Dragon Ball AF manga.
Yeah.
And the artist behind it is now working on Dragon Ball Super, Toyotaro.
Yeah, that's the funniest part about that, and Toyotaro is basically what made the tune, because I think he was the guy that did episodes 109 and 110, which are the emergence of Ultra Instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can have that. That's the weirdest thing to consider to me, like the dude who did Dragon Ball AF. Oh, and speaking of manga, the other thing that gets incorporated is Dragon Ball Minus into the recanonization of previous events. But yeah, there you go. Like our opinions on the original Broly and Broly as a character, he's...
Like, it's an interesting idea, but much like a lot of the other movies that have come out prior to this new idea where all the movies are now canon, like, not like, they've all been canon, but just like all these new movies from Battle of Gods onward being part of the canon.
I just barely thought about this. He's the Duke Nukem of Dragon Ball. Like, he's there to say catchphrases, he's there to be all muscle bound, and that's about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And then he appears as unlockable characters and boss battles in every game subsequently, except with what has happened in this film, it's hard to say what Namco Bandai...
I want to get into that, because after this film, I want a bunch of stuff now.
Yeah, and so I guess the first thing to start is one of the biggest changes is that they made Broly a lot more sympathetic in this film.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it's even right down to even the voice, because, I mean, we all know
we were both shocked it was Vic again, and we're like, how did Vic take this job?
Well, when you listen to the way Broly speaks in this film, as opposed to in the original Broly movies, you can tell that they've reworked the voice so that it's a bit more in his natural range.
Yeah.
In the original films, he was doing a much lower voice, and doing any sort of screams and stuff in something outside of your normal range is hard, and that's why it wrecked his throat. Whereas here, since Broly has a lot more speaking lines, you can tell they kind of reworked it so that way Vic could kind of stay in his normal range and not strain himself.
Yeah, exactly. And that was probably to his benefit, too, because, I mean, he spent probably the first little bit talking, and then the rest of the movie was screaming. And that's fine. Like, the screaming here was not as bad as some of the stuff he pulls out in the previous movies. But at least you have some dialogue from the character. So Vic could actually show his chops, because in my opinion that's where Vic shines, is when he's got dialogue and he's got backstory to tell.
And plus, even with the screaming, it gives kind of nice emotional context, which is something that a lot of people, when they try to do their own anime, so to speak, where they think about just the actions, but I mean, the best comparison is like with lightsaber fights. It's less about the glowing lights and the choreography and more about the internalization of the characters, which Broly as a character, as presented in...
And he's an actual character this time.
Yeah, like an actual character with a tragic past, and you can actually see, oh, this is why he's kind of a giant, crazy rage monster. It's because he was more or less, like, stuck on a hellish planet, raised by his father to basically be a violent rage monster, and then when the device that kept him under control, which they reworked, says in the original it was just some weird convoluted headband, but here it's just a simple shock collar.
It was the necklace of suppression +1. And that's what it was. It was a D&D item that somehow suppressed his powers, but then he went berserker and was like, well, so much for that necklace.
Yeah, whereas here it was just a simple shock collar.
Yeah, it's a simple... and that actually was probably one of the better retcons that they did, is that a shock collar makes a whole hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering what they had access to on Vampa, the planet where Broly and Paragus end up stranded, and that he wouldn't have the technology to just create a bunch of the whole mind suppressant, zombie-inducing things from the original. It's like he would probably just scavenge stuff from the ship to make a rudimentary shock collar.
And instead they take that suppression of emotions, because it was supposed to suppress his power plus his emotions, because, you know, as we all know, Saiyans, like a lot of their power is based on emotion. In this one, they just kind of, well, for lack of a better term, they make him slow.
Yeah. I mean,
it's slow to comprehend.
Well, yeah, because it kind of reminds me of that Jet Li movie Unleashed, where Jet Li's character had the collar, and then whenever Bob Hoskins' character took off the collar, he would just go berserk. And that's kind of what this was.
Yeah.
And that's more or less what we see during his initial fight against Vegeta and then Goku, is him basically losing control, because he was never taught how to control it. He was only taught how to utterly destroy.
No, in fact, the inner rage was more encouraged than anything else.
Yeah, and it's especially interesting to kind of see how you take a character that was in his original inception, the legendary Super Saiyan, but then you bring him into the universe now, but it's now a case of, to Paragus and Broly, the Super Saiyan was still just a legend, because they've been stuck on Vampa their whole lives.
Exactly.
They would have no idea about what happened on Namek or what happened on Earth. They wouldn't even know what those planets were. And so seeing not just Super Saiyan, but all these other forms that have come since then would be mind-blowing, to say the least.
Well, and speaking of their origin, one of the other things that was done really well, that in my opinion, and I had to go back and watch the scene in the movie, because it is as dumb as you think it is, was the reason that King Vegeta the third, we now know, when King Vegeta exiled him. And in the original movie, he tried to kill him.
Yeah, tried to kill both Paragus and
the
Broly.
reason that he tried to kill him, which makes virtually no sense, is this was a kid with a power level of 10,000, and at that point, he could have easily hidden the kid. He could have increased his power level and sent him out to go kill Frieza, and instead, no, he He went the submissive route. The king of the warrior race went the submissive route and said, we must kill him so Frieza never finds out.
True, but at the same time, there was, at least in the context of the original, in addition to Frieza finding out, there was also just that underlying fear that most...
Yeah, that he would turn on him.
Yeah, that he would turn on him.
And that part still remained. But in this case, we got to see a more legitimate motive from King Vegeta, as he was very proud of his son's latent energy. And the fact that there was a kid that was surpassing his son's latent energy pissed him off.
Well, yeah, but you also even have the foreshadowing of, oh, hey, his power levels are abnormally high. He's probably going to go berserk.
So he'll probably go berserk. He's going to be a danger to us and the planet. He could easily create issues with us and Frieza. And on top of that, he didn't, wait for a more convenient... he pulls Paragus aside and says, yeah, I'm going to do this, and Paragus gets pissed. You can get pissed all you want. I've already sent him away. This is a maniacal king. Is that he doesn't wait to get parental consent. He sends the problem away the first chance he gets.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like the fact that this motive makes a lot more sense than it did in the original movie.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what we've got here, is that they're basically taking all of these elements, so not even just Broly, but even elements from the Bardock specials that kind of explained who Bardock was. They kind of retcon out the whole, oh, he was some sort of scientist thing, which I think was something that was created for the dub, not really part of
it was created in Minus, believe it or not. So this is actually, and I'm glad you brought it up, because if I have gripes with this movie, one of them is the revision of Bardock's character. In this case, I know we like to make the joke that Goku has a very similar story to another major staple in DC, all right? He's got a very similar story to it. And this kind of went further to make more comparisons. But here's the thing. I have a legitimate beef because I like Bardock, the original Bardock movie, and the fact that Goku's dad was not a good guy. And that's because the Saiyans weren't good guys. But at least in this case, I have to say, I like that Bardock better. I don't like the fact that they made him kind of peaceful here. And he isn't technically even a scientist in this one. He's just a warrior.
Yeah, and that's one thing I liked, because that was
I actually do like this. There was a classification of Saiyan scientists and Saiyan warriors.
Well, yeah, but the thing that made it kind of just confusing in general was the whole, oh yeah, your father was the scientist who made this artificial moon, but then all of these things happen. I'm just like, oh no, it would make sense that if Goku would have been a lower class warrior, it would make sense, given the kind of the caste system that would exist on planet Vegeta. Having Bardock be something like a scientist, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Oh, hell no. And so at that point, I like the fact that they kind of just established him as a warrior and kind of moved on from it. I also do like the fact that they made him a little bit cagey as to Frieza's motives throughout the movie. For example, the one of the better moments for Bardock, in my opinion, was when he was, I think his name was Beat. He was talking to the guy, and he was just blathering on about how he hates Frieza. And he's wearing a frickin' scouter, and Bardock's just like, you know you're wearing a scouter, right? He can hear you.
Yeah, and that's another thing they also explain is where the heck the scouters came from.
Yeah, that was actually a really cool origin, especially the way that they actually presented it, is Frieza puts it on his face, and all of a sudden, oh yes, oh by the way, I can see that you have 4 snipers trained on me. Oh, all of them have a power level of 10,000? Well, bam, 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 bam. It's like, wow, this actually portrays Frieza as a badass and as a dictator.
Yeah, it shows why the Cold family was feared as much as they were. It just shows, hey, they were that ruthless. There's a reason that the Saiyans couldn't just turn on them.
No, and in fact, that was actually really good re-canonizing of the story to basically establish King Cold retiring, and that the army was originally called the Cold Forces. And now it's the Frieza forces. Mm-hmm. So, the changing of the guard. And then also, the thing that a lot of reviewers out there aren't talking about so much is we got to see the Scouter before the Scouter. And it's the brick cell phone of Scouters. And it's actually pretty cool to look at. It's basically like a Scouter gun.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that they did that to show that the previous technology wasn't as advanced as the Scouters we all know. So yeah, I also like the fact that we got to see the Ginyu Force back in full swing and posing.
Yep.
But back to Bardock, the other thing that I do like is, again, they established him as a warrior, but then they actually, instead of having the weird deal that the Bardock special did where he got psychic powers somehow through a fish person, and he then saw Frieza obliterating the Saiyans, no, they actually had Bardock piece together that Frieza was here to get all the Saiyans in one place and then annihilate them. I like that.
Yeah. And one thing I did like, and it's something they peppered throughout the film, I liked how they still alluded to a lot of these original specials, where when Planet Vegeta is being destroyed, much like what we saw in
Bardock was coming back from the planet that he had gone to.
Well, yeah, not even just that, but you see in the actual scene where Frieza's like sending his giant death ball, you see Bardock sending the blast, which is exactly kind of how he did it in the original Bardock, the Father of Goku special.
Which supposedly, there's like more footage, and a lot of people are speculating that it's from there. Like, people are wondering if Bardock, like, started a full-on revolt before the death ball came. And that would be really cool to get as, like, additional footage on the Blu-ray.
Possibly, but really it depends on whether Toei would do it for the Blu-ray or if it would be a tie-in to something like Xenoverse or something, given that they're still doing events in Xenoverse 2, and then we've also got Super Dragon Ball Heroes coming out soon.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing, too, that I'll also point out is again, Saiyan Society isn't as cut and dry as it was in Z. Like, they literally portrayed them as, I think they were pretty much portrayed as like 60% of the existing Cold Forces. And so a lot of people were saying if the Saiyans actually did revolt, they probably could have won. So it's not just that the legendary Super Saiyan would win the battle for them, but then also with the Society, we got to see Saiyan engineers that are way thinner than all the big beefy Saiyans. And we got to see what Saiyan women do in the Society, which is basically, the old 40s poster of the woman, flexing her bicep. Like, they take care of I hate to say it, but they're all Chi-Chis,
Yeah. I mean, basically, they kind of made Planet Vegeta, they were basically space Spartans. That's kind of the best way to put it, is that the Saiyans are space Spartans.
So, in a lot of cases where I've seen a lot of people giving crap to Goku's mom, Gine, I'm not going to be there to give crap. Like, she was very dedicated to what she was doing. I like the fact that Gine kind of shows a clear lineage to Raditz, where, like, a lot of people are going, how is Raditz related to Goku? Now you can kind of get it with Gine. But they also kind of portray her as being a smart cookie outside it. Like, she's not just, I'm going to go in the kitchen and make you a sandwich. No, she's actually questioning Bardock's motives this entire time. You just barely got back here and you want to take our son away? What the hell?
Yeah, and it also gives a bit more insight into just the whole idea of the nursing pods and how, okay...
And they're not just all in one place, that's just the elite ones. No, we have them back where we store the potatoes.
Well, I mean, if you want somewhere cold and dry...
Is that the right place to put Goku, though? He'll eat you out of house and home.
Well, keep in mind, though, this was before Goku came to Earth and hit his head on, a rock, so...
I think he'd still pretty much eat them out of house and home, though. Well,
though, keep in mind, apparently all Saiyans have that voracious appetite, so naturally it would probably be a case where they probably have contingencies in place.
Although the Earthling Saiyans don't. I've noticed that. Like, they've said that Gohan, Trunks, and Goten don't really do that.
Yeah.
Because they kind of look at dad. They look at their dad and go, what?
Yeah, probably just more because they don't really get a chance because all the food's already gone.
Well, at that point, you have to legitimately question, like, how is Bulma rich? Because she has 2 Saiyans to feed.
Well, then again, she is basically the owner of probably the most successful technology company in that entire world. I mean, she basically runs the equivalent of Apple and Microsoft rolled into one, except... Yeah. Like, imagine Apple, Microsoft mixed in with GE, because, I mean, those capsules, the kind of things they put in those capsules...
But then you would kind of understand why Chi-Chi is so freaking impoverished.
Yeah, and for those wondering, my camera likes to die at random, so that's why I had to rerun it.
Yeah. So there you go. Like, I like the fact that they did so much to kind of reinterpret Saiyan Society, reinterpret characters like Paragus and give him a reason to legitimately be vengeful, reinterpret Frieza and actually showcase him as the vicious dictator we heard he was, but we never really saw it. Especially in Super doesn't really give him an opportunity to be a dictator. So
yeah, mainly because there is just case, hey, we need you to help save our universe.
Well, and also his forces are so depleted at that point it just doesn't really even matter. Like Frieza is Frieza. He could probably just be his own one-man wrecking crew. He just wants to have an army.
Yep.
So, yeah, there you go. We have, like, really cool revising of history And I know a lot of people were very dreading of Dragon Ball Minus becoming canon. There's a lot of problems with that manga, I guess. But in this case, I'm going to say, like, my beef with Bardock is a minor one, but it works.
Well, yeah, and part of the stuff that we get for the kind of the origin also comes from the Jacko Patrolman manga, which is where I know that's where the character Gine made her debut, was in the Jacko the Galactic Patroller, which wasn't presented as a Dragon Ball spin-off, but then revealed to be one much later when you realize the younger sister of the main female character was Bulma.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting kind of how they both retconned a lot of these, but still had those nice subtle nods to acknowledging that, hey, we know where these sources came from. We're not going to pretend they didn't exist.
Exactly.
Just with nice small visual flourishes. And one thing I also like is how they kind of explored what the Frieza Force would have really done after he was brought back, after the Tournament of Power, and kind of what Frieza would be doing after everything that has happened and everything that he's seen.
Which I think is kind of a good cut into this movie in a lot of reviews is being cut into thirds. And the first part is obviously the prequel stuff, like it's telling us all we need to know. And now we're kind of getting into the second portion of it, which in my opinion brings us back to the silliness of the original Dragon Ball. You get to hear the two silliest wishes we've heard in a while, and both of them how similar they are. As Bulma is gathering up the Dragon Balls to wish herself 5 years younger. Why 5 years and not 10? Simply because she doesn't want to make it look like she's growing older, but if she goes too far back, then she's going to get questions. And Frieza asking for something similar in the fact that he wants to grow 5 inches, not 10.
Well, technically 5 centimeters.
No, it's 5 centimeters, not 10 centimeters, because he wants to make it look like he's growing. And at that point, like, a lot of logic was brought to him. Like, well, why don't you just stay in your second form all the time? I hate that second form!
Yeah, I mean, I felt it was like a nice nod, because that was the whole reason why Commander Red of the Red Ribbon Army was gathering the Dragon Balls, was to become taller.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, we haven't had dumb wishes like that in a long time. Most of Z's wishes are bring back the people of Earth, bring back the people of Namek, bring back the people of whatever planet.
Yeah, like, or recreate the planet.
Or recreate the planet. Because you had to do New Namek. I was thinking GT there for a second. No, that's accurate. But the other thing, too, that I like about the silly wishes is, like, they actually explain why it's virtually pointless now for Frieza to wish for invulnerability and immortality. And that's usually the default of every movie villain, and in some cases, most of the Z villain plots. Like, because Vegeta wishes to be immortal, and then Frieza does, but Cell doesn't care, because he already will be. So at that point, I like the fact that they allude to Frieza has spent so many years in Earth's hell that he doesn't want to go back there, and immortality could actually lead to something worse than that. And invulnerability is, why would I wreck the fun of fighting?
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they took the default movie plot and said, no, we're not doing that here. Yeah,
and it's interesting in how they just kind of explore how all the characters have changed after basically seeing this, like, basically after everything they've experienced. And that's something that even Whis comments on, saying, hey, why do you want to get even stronger than you both already are?
Yeah.
And of course you've got Goku kind of being like, oh, well, I've seen so many strong people, I want to get stronger for that. And then naturally with Vegeta, the motivation has changed from, oh, I want to get strong enough to beat Kakarot, to, like, I need to be strong enough to beat Frieza, because I know Frieza's going to come back.
Yeah, I like that. You know, like, this is, again, a continuation of Vegeta's super arc, which is just basically not... Kakarot is a pursuit, but it's also kind of a backseat pursuit to protecting his family, protecting the Earth. He actually has become the protector of Earth, and Goku just has his own motives, you know? That's kind of what they've done to paint him, and I like the fact that they've stuck with that arc. And with Goku, they still allude to what he said near the end of Super, which is like, I know that there's a whole other threshold of power, and I want to be able to reach it, so that's why I continue to fight.
Yep, and so it's just interesting that at least they're taking the time to actually reflect on how the experiences have changed them, whereas in the past with Dragon Ball Z, things would often be, you'd often just have like these skips in time where things are just kind of reset to normal.
Well, and a lot of these writers, they didn't know if their movie would ever be canon, and so they basically prepared these movies just in case they never were. So that's why you have movies happening in random concurrence with some sagas, but not others.
Yeah, just basically having the characters that were appearing in the episodes running at the time during times in which they kept catching up to the manga, which that's also where we got a lot of the filler arcs. I know the reason the Frieza fight in the original was so long, a lot of people think, oh, it was something of the dub. Like, no, it's literally Toei.
No, they had to stretch it.
They had to stretch it because Toriyama hadn't ended the fight, and they're just like, yo, Akira, you got to wrap this up. We don't know what else. We can't keep padding for time.
Yeah.
We've had him charging the Spirit Bomb for 3 weeks now.
Toriyama. You and your editors.
Yep.
But yeah, so you had really cool explanations happening in between all of this. The other thing that I do like is kind of what sets things into into meeting Broly, is that they actually, so the Frieza forces steal the Dragon Balls, but they came up with a really good plan. They sent 2 Lobies, like, that barely register on any scouter. They sent them to go all Mission Impossible and grab the Dragon Balls, because they'd be so insignificant, Goku and Vegeta wouldn't notice.
Yeah, and that's something even
playing into Saiyan arrogance.
Yeah, and it's also a case where Frieza is just like, hey, if I were to go to Earth before we've gathered them all, they'll know.
He'd be detected.
Yeah, like even without scouters, they know what Frieza energy feels like, and so as soon as Frieza's nearby, they know it's like, hey, we know Frieza's here.
I literally looked at that as like a breath of fresh air. They're literally in that whole conversation with Frieza's attendant. You got justifications of why he will never wish for immortality, why he will never wish for invulnerability, and an actually good plan to get the Dragon Balls.
Mm-hmm.
That never happened in the Frieza saga. He was just like, annihilate village, grab Dragon Ball, move on to the next town. And in this one, send 2 Lobies that nobody would ever notice. The only way that Goku and Vegeta ever knew was because Trunks called. He's like, yeah, your office is kind of trash, Mom. He's like, well, why is it trash? Go look at the video camera. And that's how they knew, because they saw the Frieza armor.
Yeah, and so it's just interesting that we're now at a point where they're actually acknowledging the past events, and we're actually seeing the characters change as a result of them, which was always a problem, not just with Dragon Ball, but just shonen series in general, where in a bid to maintain that status quo to keep readers, it was always hard to kind of acknowledge that change. But
although one thing I want to clarify for somebody in the podcast audience that brought this up is they were asking an honest question. Why wasn't it Pilaf trying to steal the Dragon Balls? Because they didn't notice. But if you look at when Trunks is looking back at the footage, Pilaf and his gang are in the room with him. Mm-hmm. But it's very difficult to notice because the camera or the focus of the shot is where they want you to be. So you have to pay attention. But yes, Pilaf and his gang are there. So there's very clear reasoning they're not going to grab the Dragon Balls. But it's a good reason to think that they would. Well,
yeah, and at the same time, at least as the series have established, when you look at the events of Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and even some of the one-offs with Super, they basically are just kind of mooching off of Capsule Corp at this point. I mean, Pilaf still...
Everybody is.
Everybody is, but I mean, Pilaf has his ambitions, but it's kind of a case of, we're going to get the Dragon Balls after we get some more free food.
Yeah.
After more of this. And especially considering that when you consider future Trunks in the Goku Black arc, where Mai and Trunks are basically a canon couple, it's a case of, hey, well, I think Pilaf, although he probably wouldn't admit it as a character, kind of realizes that, I'm kind of outclassed here, so I'm just gonna sit back, relax, eat the free food.
But yeah, like, that's a legit question. Why isn't Pilaf stealing the Dragon Balls? He's there, the camera doesn't want you to notice that he's there, because its focus is intended. But no, the Frieza forces are the ones that took the Dragon Balls.
Plus, especially when you consider that once wishes are made, the balls are inert for an entire year, Pilaf is probably thinking, I'm not, he could go out and travel the world trying to find them again, or just wait with the person who has the radar and who's going to gather them for her own purposes on a very consistent basis. I mean, I like how Team 4-Star even acknowledges the joke of, can anyone else find these things?
Nope. Yeah, exactly. But I guess the other thing that we need to talk about is Broly's development in this part of the arc. And that is probably where some of the best moments in this movie shine. Is, they establish Paragus and his vengeance streak. Like, he has a major vengeance boner for Vegeta. Mm-hmm. But Broly doesn't necessarily have that. He gets mad when people make fun of his father, or, tell his father to move aside, or tell his friends to move aside. but most of the time he's passive. He doesn't care. And that's where we also get the establishment of what people online are affectionately calling Team Broly. If I murder the names, I'm sorry. It's like Chile and Lemon.
Yeah, like Lenmo? Chile and Lenmo, I think are the
Lenmo.
Like Chile and Lenmo are like the two Frieza goons that.
Or as a lot of people online are calling this fan service.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even we have to admit she was used in a lot of fan servicey kind of moments, but.
It wouldn't be
Bulma
the first
was used in Dragon Ball for that.
Well,
so.
yeah, I mean, again, people forget, like, there was Bulma, you also had characters like Launch. Yeah. This isn't the first time that Toei has done this sort of thing.
No, like, you could maybe make the argument for Chi-Chi, but she was super young when she was fan servicey.
Yeah, and even then, Toriyama...
No, like, Chi-Chi, for a lot of people that knock Chi-Chi, like, her legacy's pretty much intact. She's a badass woman... she's the only one who can kick Goku's ass, by the way. Like, in my opinion, if Chi-Chi became the next major saga villain, we're all doomed. Because there's no way Goku would fight her. But they've gone out of their way to establish her still as a fighter.
Yeah.
To this day.
And yeah, it's just with her character, she's very much a victim of Toriyama writing himself into a corner, which by his own admission, he states that he's not good with romance stories, and so that's why... Chi-Chi was basically just written out of the plot as just the nagging housewife. It was because Toriyama just didn't really know how else to write her character.
No.
And that's also why Launch is no longer in the series.
But then you look at all of the other female characters in there. I mean, maybe 18 is an exception, because even though 18 is kind of fan servicey in the way that she acts, she's never been portrayed that way. Bulma certainly has. Launch certainly has. Yeah, I think 18 is the only other exception that has never been shown in a fan servicey way, and Chile is par for the course at this point.
Yeah, and at this point, it's a case where
I don't know about you, I was giggling when she was bringing up, why aren't you wearing your armor, Broly? I can't make it fit. All you have to do is this. What the hell? Yeah. Is the armor made of rubber?
I mean, that's something they've alluded to as far back as the Namek saga, where it's hard, but it's like a stretchable.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be fitting across you.
Yeah, and so looking at it, it's a case where she's a bit fan servicey, but it's an anime film produced in Japan. I mean, you gotta sell your merch somehow.
Well, I love the fact that there were so many people getting mad, like, oh, she was only portrayed to be fan servicey. Yeah, Bulma was too. And I'm not the biggest fan of the original Dragon Ball, but Bulma was totally done that way. I mean, do people not remember the first ever wish on the Dragon Balls?
Mm-hmm.
Panties! That's what they were! And they were Bulma's panties!
Yep, or the bunny outfit.
Or the bunny outfit, or... I mean, the one that I like to bring up to people, which is... I'll train... I think this is how it went. Roshi will train the boys if... Bulma shows him her panties, and it just so happens that Goku took them off earlier that morning.
Yeah.
That stuff is so Japan, but it's hilarious, and so at that point I'm not too mad at this concept.
Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind, people, Toriyama could have done a lot worse. I mean, a lot of people...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, need I remind you all of Lady Red?
Lady Red, I mean, for crying out loud, like, a majority of the female cast in Fairy Tail... Like, she could have been way more hourglassy than she was.
Well, I wasn't even meaning design-wise, like, because Lady Red was, like, a manga that Toriyama produced that's actually his most controversial, and so...
Oh, okay, my bad, sorry.
Yeah, because, like, people who were, like, know about Lady Red, that controversial manga that Toriyama himself is ashamed of, things could have gone a lot worse.
Oh, a hell of a lot worse. So, at that point, like, I get the argument that some people have, but that's what Chile was. In fact, she's a thief. She was portrayed as a thief. So, Catwoman personality. Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, she literally, when the scenes we first introduced her, she's like, oh yeah, I joined the Frieza Force because she stole a galactic patrol car, and it's basically like someone joining the Mafia to get out of going to jail.
Yeah, and she's hanging around with Lenmo because, well, Lenmo can drive her ship, and at that point she's got some legit cover.
Well, yeah, and then it's just, they're basically the two weak scrubs of the Frieza Force who aren't combatants. They're
and
just
that nobody is worried about.
Yeah, basically, like, they're basically disposable, or Frieza's just like, oh, hey, if you go search these inhospitable planets, if you find anyone powerful to join the Frieza Force, you get money.
Which is why they can get away with half the shit they get away with in this movie.
Yep.
So, it makes perfect sense. But as far as, like, character development, this is also where we got really cool development with Broly, as a lot of people have been asking about that whole skirt, sash, belt thing he's been wearing in the trailers. I didn't think there was going to be an origin story to it, but we got one.
Yeah, one that speaks to the character of Broly that they created here, where he's kind of like a counterpart to Goku, where if Goku hadn't ended up with someone like Grandpa Gohan, who was kind, loving, and tried to raise him as someone who was decent, if Goku was still, like, with the Saiyans...
if Goku had held on to his Saiyan instincts, he could have easily been another Raditz. He could have easily been another Vegeta.
Yeah, or if he just landed in the wrong part of the world. Like, imagine if Goku had fallen into the hands of the Red Ribbon Army.
Oh, yeah.
Then that would more or less what you would get a character. You would get a character like Broly if someone like Goku was in the hands of someone who saw the fighter potential but didn't actually see the person. That's kind of what you get with Broly as a character. Someone who has that same pure-hearted Saiyan nature, but never really got a chance to actually have a normal life because he was more or less used as a tool of revenge.
Yeah, and the motivation here that they do for Broly is very much that. I don't even think... I guess you could make an argument that Paragus still sees Broly as his son, but the way that it's portrayed in this movie is Paragus sees Broly as a tool.
Yeah, more like a tool, more like a soldier, not as a relative. Given that,
and in my opinion, the best way to be able to portray this is the story that Broly tells, where we find out that the scarf is actually an ear of one of the creatures of Vampa, who he was training against, because he was avoiding this giant worm-like creature's mouth.
Yeah, basically giant. Imagine an evil version of the cat bus that lives in a crater.
Yeah, and Paragus deemed it was not training; it was playing, and killed Ba, because that's what Broly named it. Killed Ba because he needed to do legitimate training. Yeah,
it kind of reminded me a little bit of Lone Wolf and Cub, because that's kind of the same thing you see in the manga Lone Wolf and Cub, when during any instances in which Daigoro starts acting like a normal kid, Kozude naturally just kind of says, like, no, we're on a mission of revenge, we're on a quest into hell, and this is probably, like, obscure...
Like standard revenge plot could also explain this, too, because in a lot of cases, revenge plots always involve somebody with an axe to grind, and they're always older.
And they devoted
for crying out loud, Karate Kid Part 2.
Well, yeah, and not to mention that of them devoting their whole life to the pursuit of revenge. I mean, like Karate Kid Part 2, I mean, literally, that's the whole point of the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, your kid, or you're my kid, ergo my revenge is your revenge, kind of deal. And so that's also one of the things that makes Broly so sympathetic as a character now, is that this isn't, you can tell very clearly, this isn't what he wants. He wants to go back home. He wants to go and kill bug creatures.
So yeah, and that's something that I even like how they worked into the actual fights as well, where you've got first Vegeta kind of seeing him as like, okay, this is just a regular threat, but then you see Goku is the first of the two Saiyans on Earth who actually sees this inner turmoil, like, hey, you don't have to do what everyone else wants you. You actually see Goku almost kind of trying to be a teacher, something that's kind of like a nice little, okay, so this is probably what you'd see if Super decides to explore
the training with Oob.
The training with Oob, where you actually see Goku not just seeing Broly as a strong fighter, but also actually trying to train him.
Which helps, because a lot of people like me had the same question at that last episode of Dragon Ball Z, is why on earth would he take an apprentice? He's never had an interest in doing that. And there's been no indication throughout any of this episode that he's interested in doing that. And this kind of helps bridge that gap.
Yeah, it kind of shows where that comes from. And again, it shows for the first time in a long time that, Goku has actually grown from his experiences as a character. He's not just the same big kid idiot.
And you could also make the argument that part of the reason that he's grown into this role is because he's seen Vegeta now taking more of a master role with Kaba, Caulifla, and Kale, the Universe 6 Saiyans, and being willing to teach them. So now he's interested in teaching.
Yeah, as well as, I mean, this could kind of go more into the theory, because there's this thing called the overview effect that you see in astronauts where they've left the planet, they look down on Earth, and it kind of alters their perspective. Seeing multiple universes and the fighters of the different universes and training with beings like Beerus and Whis, naturally it would kind of change his perspective of, he would still want to be strong, but he's no longer thinking so narrowly. It's a case of, oh, hey, there's literally a wide multiverse out there of opponents that are all strong in different ways, and naturally he's kind of become more receptive to it. I mean, are you familiar with Masako X's color theory with the Super Saiyan colors?
Yes.
Yes, and so granted, that is only a fan theory, but it feels kind of like it falls into that, where because he's touched these kind of higher levels of awareness with God Ki and with Ultra
yeah,
Instinct.
he seems more enlightened because of it.
Yeah, that's definitely the best way to put it, is that he's more enlightened, and especially I like how he doesn't start with the beam blast right out of the way when he's fighting against Broly in Super Saiyan God. He's using the techniques that restrain him to try to get him to calm down.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's just like, hey, I don't feel like you're out to actually kill us. You're just fighting because everyone else is telling you to fight.
And with that, I think that's pretty much a good cut-in into actually talking about the damn fight.
Oh yeah, and the animation in this film, they learned their lesson from Resurrection F.
They totally did. In my opinion, this is especially after talking with you, because in my opinion, Battle of Gods is like a perfect blending of digital art as far as I'm concerned in Dragon Ball. And this was taking what was, in my opinion, good about Resurrection F and what was good about Battle of Gods and bringing them together to make a much more cohesive animation style.
Although I wouldn't be surprised if they got some help from ArcSys, because
they totally did.
Yeah, because looking at like some of the CG models they did use, I'm just like, okay, they probably.
Hence why I'm screaming, ArcSys, we know you have the designs. Dragon Ball Fighters needs some new skin packs for Broly, Vegeta, and Goku.
They're probably going to implement them.
I hope so. I want that Broly skin. I really do. But yeah, let's get into the fight itself. And I have no problem admitting this to you, Romney. I have done the Pirate's way for a couple of days now, and I've found YouTube clips of the fight. And it's amazing to be able to watch. And the only word that I can describe why this fight resonates with me is impact. It's not that you have a flurry of combos happening around, but every punch, every kick has impact to it.
Yeah, and especially given that this is a movie and not an episode of a TV show, you can tell they had the time to actually think about the choreography and to think about, okay, if they're fighting in this environment, how would this environment actually react to these attacks? And I
think this is the first time Toriyama had ever done anything in the Arctic. I mean, we do have Android 13, but that's not him.
Yeah, that was a director from the anime, because with those movies prior to Battle of Gods, it was just a case of, hey, these directors are brought in to direct these one-off specials or movies to get people to put down more money to fund the show.
Yeah.
And that's what they were. And so, although you can still tell that there was a lot of artistry here, and especially considering that you've got, although, Toriyama did write the story, you still had other people directing it, and the amount of...
Did Toriyama do World's Strongest?
I don't think so.
Okay, because that would be the other one that's based in the Arctic.
Yeah, because I don't think he actually worked on any of the movies.
No.
Like,
I know that he did sample work for GT, but that was about it.
Yeah, like sample work, like the only like movies that he was directly involved in was Battle of Gods, and even then,
because he had to supply the Super Saiyan God form.
Yeah, not even just that, like because although he came up with like the initial concept, but then other artists were brought in to kind of design things. I know that Beerus was initially meant to be a lizard creature, but then one of the artists who was like one of his assistants, aside from Toyotaro, came up with the idea of, oh, why not design it based on this cat? And then Toriyama literally had a cat of that
exact same breed.
And so it's a case of, oh, hey, yeah, it kind of looks like this cat I've been taking care of.
I think he's even renamed his cat at home to be named Beerus.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I also loved about this fight scene, it started with Vegeta.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest gripe in most of the Battle of Gods. It makes sense for Goku to be facing off against Beerus, but Frieza, it would have been so much cooler to start off with Vegeta and give Frieza this feeling of oh yeah, I can totally raffle stomp you, and then boom, Super Saiyan Blue out of nowhere. That would have been, that reveal happened way too late in the movie as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, the fact that they started off with Vegeta, because Broly doesn't care about Kakarot. He is going beeline straight for the guy that Paragus has told him to annihilate this entire time. And their fight is gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Especially when Super Saiyan gets brought out and it's just flabbergasting Paragus. He's like, I've never seen this form ever.
Yeah, and especially Frieza's reaction was like, wait, he's never gone Super Saiyan before?
And I also love the fact that Frieza didn't tell him.
Yeah.
I almost kind of wonder if Frieza actually wondered if he knew about Super Saiyan. And so at that point, it actually was really cool to be able to see Paragus go, what? He's transformed? What the hell? And all of a sudden, he is now more of a threat to Broly than they realized he would be.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's especially interesting when you consider And I also like this where after the fights kind of moves from Vegeta to Goku, where you then see Broly actually go Super Saiyan after Paragus is killed by Frieza.
Yeah.
Because Frieza, being the manipulative a-hole he is just like, oh, hey, got killed as a result of the fight.
Which, again, has logic behind it. But, like, he annihilates Paragus and then goes, Broly, it's terrible! Paragus has been annihilated by stray fire! But the reason he did that was because he remembered when he blew up Krillin and what happened after that.
Yep, and that's kind of where you see Broly as most fans would remember him, the big hulking Super Saiyan massive
Legendary
destruction.
Super Saiyan.
And that's even when you start seeing some of the beam attacks many people remember from the special as well. And that's kind of where you see Broly as most people have seen Broly prior to that point. But now you have all this extra emotional context that kind of explains everything that's happened. I mean, the only aspect of kind of the action that did kind of baffle me a bit, I mean, I understand from a writing standpoint why, but the random pep talk from Piccolo, it felt like it came out of nowhere.
So yeah, getting to that, I mean, we have literally seen Broly just wipe the floor with both Vegeta and Goku, so much so that I felt bad for Sean Schemmel when he just kept on getting thrown around.
Yeah,
like
quite literally ragdolled.
Yeah, like literally getting ragdolled like the Hulk and just like, like, and it was actually one of those times where I was sitting there going, I think they're going to kill Goku in this movie because there's no way that he's going to survive from it. And then how they fix that, they interrupt it with a conversation with Piccolo. The other thing, too, I want to get into with Vegeta, though, is the thing that everybody's talking about, which is the final reveal of Vegeta Super Saiyan God. Now, technically, this had happened in the manga, but it never happened in Super. It has certainly not happened in the Tournament of Power, although I have a feeling that when Super goes back into animation, we're probably going to see this form from Vegeta more.
Probably.
And a lot of people have been talking about it, and in some cases, for good and for bad. A lot of people noticed Super Saiyan God Goku because it makes him look thinner. And it's harder to notice with Vegeta because he's got that form-fitting armor. But it is there. I actually had to go back and look at some of those frames. And yes, his arms do look thinner, more gaunt. And at that point, I also think that he tends to look a little wiser than Goku in the Super Saiyan God form. And he certainly operates a little bit smarter than Goku does.
Yeah.
But, like, after seeing Broly by seeing Goku and Vegeta literally get ragdolled by this guy over and over, then that's when we decided to pull out the Super Saiyan Blue button, which I was very happy that they did. Like, they held back significantly because they didn't know what they were expecting, and as soon as this guy posed a legit threat, that's when they pulled out Super Saiyan Blue.
Well, yeah, and I mean, especially, it makes sense where they're kind of pacing themselves because they don't know. It very much is the case of you don't want to necessarily. I mean, if they went straight to Super Saiyan Blue, it'd basically be the equivalent of dropping a nuke to get rid of an anthill.
Well, that's one of the biggest complaints that people had with Resurrection F, is that, like, right off the bat, Frieza's at final form, then they go Super Saiyan, and then at that point you go Golden Frieza and Super Saiyan Blue. When a lot of people wanted to see Super Saiyan God and see Frieza's reaction to it, I get why they did that, because Golden Frieza is the equivalent of Super Saiyan Blue, according to that movie.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for them to do it. But in this case, they could. Because Broly's power is untapped. It is immeasurable. So at that point, you could have the Saiyans playing hooky with their powers a little bit.
Yeah, and it's something you see early on in, like, I know in the Buu saga, when Goku's fighting Kid Buu, they have it where he doesn't go straight to Super Saiyan 3. He paces himself. He goes into regular Super Saiyan, kind of baits out, and then saves Super Saiyan 3 for when things are really getting intense.
Yes, and they actually did that logically, because, you know, when he used 3 beforehand with the halo above him, he could use it inexhaustibly. But then when he had it in real life, like, they did this one little nip where he did Super Saiyan 3 to get out of the way, and this was when he was trying to get the Potara onto Gohan. Uh-oh, we lost the camera again.
Oh.
But people might remember when the Potara first got introduced before we got Vegeta, he was going to fuse with Gohan. Mm-hmm. So at that point, what they did was they had him go 3, zoom out of the way of Buu, and then he's like, oh, this takes up a lot more energy than I thought it would. So at that point, you had a justification as to why he wasn't going to use 3. Broly also kind of forgoes this because 3 has just proven to be an inefficient form.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you consider the nature of, now that you've got Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue kind of on the table, it's very much, you've got the more efficient paths to power that Super Saiyan 3 just isn't needed anymore. And it's, especially when you consider the Hero was probably a real pain to animate as well.
Well, the other thing, too, that I also love that they did with Paragus is this has technically never been stated by Toriyama. It's always been alluded to in the anime. But a lot of people have speculated for the longest time that, where does the Super Saiyan power come from? It comes from the Ozaru form. It comes from the Great Ape that they can't control, but since they're in human form, they can control it. And Paragus is the first one to actually say, they almost look the way that Broly does when he loses control. What if they found a way to harness the power of the Uzaru form? And that's the first time it's ever been alluded to. And as people like to point out now that they've watched it a couple of times, have you noticed Broly's eyes?
Yeah.
In the water, there's only one phase in Super Saiyan where the eyes go straight yellow, and that's 4. So at that point, they've already kind of alluded to the fact that 4 is a potential possibility.
Or at the very least, we'll probably get a new interpretation of Super Saiyan 4, which again tied into that
but
great
the way that they paired the eyes with Paragus saying, what if this untapped power that they're actually going into is coming from the Uzaru form?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you consider how the fact that he had to cut off Broly's tail when they were growing up because of how uncontrolled he was, naturally, that anger, that pent-up rage, it's not going to just disappear when you cut off a Saiyan's tail.
No.
That's something you see even a little bit with Gohan in the Cell Saga, where although his tail is missing, there's still that untapped well of anger that he just kept a lid on for so long. Until...
And hence why Super Saiyan 2 happened, is because he took the lid off. And so I love the fact that they kind of allude to that, and even at Blue, Broly's a problem. They're still getting ragdolled. Because that's the other part that's interesting about Broly is every time they increase their power, he almost adapts to match them and then goes higher than them slightly. And so he becomes a real problem for all of them, hence why even a Gallic Kamehameha doesn't work. And Goku has to press the Piccolo button, roughly. He has to get them out of there.
Yep, and that's basically gives the interlude about how of them having to learn the fusion dance, which is a nice nod to the other Dragon Ball movies like Fusion Reborn, where because again, Gogeta hadn't been seen in the canon series outside of those movies, and so
Vegeta was the only one that was canon.
Yep, and so this was our first canon introduction to Gogeta, and again, it was like a nice little subtle nod because.
And before people jump down our throats, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta has not been announced as canon yet. And it's simply because Toriyama doesn't know... I think the quote right now is, Toriyama doesn't know if GT is going to be canon with Super.
Yeah, and it's a case where he...
That's why he's playing it safe and saying this is happening between that.
Yeah, because at least with how it was explained, it's that Toriyama doesn't want to discredit the hard work that the people working on GT put into making
Exactly.
GT.
And I mean, he technically came up with the Super Saiyan 4 form. So he doesn't know if he wants to eventually bring that back.
Yeah, and plus it's also a case where he was on really good terms with the production staff, and so it's, in his mind, it's not just the logistics. It's just like, well, I don't want to, throw all of this hard work. They set out to do their best with this series. I don't want to.
But at the same time, he wanted to give this nod, and so we got to see. First of all, we got to see what a lot of Vegeta fans were waiting on, which was actually him reacting to having to do the funny dance. And how he almost kind of considers letting the Earth be destroyed before being embarrassed.
Yeah, and again, it's a nice nod, because in Fusion Reborn, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Janemba's got them both backed against the wall, and so they're just like, well, crap, we have to fuse.
And I've seen a lot of Dragon Ball fans getting mad about this, but I loved it. How they got the fusion dance wrong twice. They did the exact same thing that that Goten and Trunks had to learn, where, your finger was slightly off, you get the skinnier version.
Well, I think finger was slightly off led to the fat version, and
the finger slightly off was the skinny version.
No, finger slightly off was fat, the angled one was the skinny one.
Angled one was the skinny one. And so you got those two different forms. Then you got to have the merged form, and he wasn't named Gogeta.
At least not yet. They were like, we need to think of a name.
No, he actually had to come up with one of the names, and one of the ones that I don't know if you caught this one, the first one was Gojira. I'm like, oh, please call yourself Gojira. just to see all the problems that would come out from Toho about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got to have that incident happened where he named himself, and then he didn't go to Broly first, he went to Frieza and stated, oh yeah, by the way, we can do this, and you missed that.
Yeah, and prior to that scene, I kind of liked how they're both kind of on the edge of the ropes, and they're like outrunning Broly, and then they're just like, have fun, Frieza.
Yeah, exactly, have fun, and to Frieza's credit, he held his own for a little while there.
But, I mean, it was immensely satisfying just seeing the manipulative a-hole that Frieza is.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying this battle. Wait, what? I didn't ask to be put into this. What the hell?
And he survived, and then we got to have the whole standoff with Gogeta. Yeah, we can fuse. We've been able to do this for a while. You missed that. That was also very satisfying. And then we get into the fight itself. And Gogeta versus Broly, even then, it's a struggle.
Mm-hmm. So much so that it quite literally breaks reality.
Yes, and I guess this is an alluding to Fusion Reborn. I don't know how, but
I'm not quite sure on that front.
Well, yeah, because the weird dimension that they were in when they fought Janemba was hell, wasn't it?
Yeah, at least that's what I think it was.
Yeah, so at that point, I don't know. A lot of people are saying this is an allusion over to Fusion Reborn. I'm not sure how.
Well, I mean, it might be in terms of kind of the general like glass shattering sort of imagery to it. But it was, yeah. I felt it was kind of still weird.
I felt it more alluded to the concept of us being able to actually explore other universes because your power is so high you can literally break dimensions.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, I just kept making jokes like, okay, did they accidentally crush Ant-Man in that weird alternate universe?
Crap, he's not in Endgame anymore.
Oh yeah, so that's where he was in Infinity War. He accidentally got crushed by the Saiyans fighting Broly.
In fact, I want somebody to do a meme now. It's just like, where the hell have you been? Oh, I was in the quantum universe for a while, and then this dude with blue hair came by. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to have an amazing fight out of it, and eventually, it doesn't end. I don't want to say that we as viewers got cock-blocked, because we totally didn't. But kind of the solution that they've been alluding to this whole movie happens. Is Chile and Ledmo procure the Dragon Balls, and they wish Broly back on Vampa.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I know a few people are complaining about it. They wanted to have a definitive winner and loser, but this works, especially with what comes next.
Yeah, and especially since it kind of sets things up of Goku being a frequent visitor and training Broly, helping him to kind of harness his power more effectively. It kind of sets the stage of, hey, we actually have
basically trying to set up Broly to be in the second part of Super.
Yeah, as well as just kind of showing that, hey, we actually have a direction going forward. It's not just a case of, oh, this is a one and done. And I also like how it's just like, oh, it is kind of a glorified commercial for Super, but not as bad as it was in Resurrection F.
No, not at all. And in fact, a lot of it really works, especially considering the canonicity of Kale.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, I wasn't all that excited when Kale got introduced. I knew that they were kind of hinting her up to being a Broly-esque kind of person and making what has been affectionately called Berserker Saiyan in the canon, making that canon. And so at that point, it only makes sense to bring Broly into that and have Kale and Broly meet. And just see, I'm not saying I want romance between the two of these.
Especially considering that they just can't really do romance, because...
Well, and again, Kale has that major hard-on for Caulifla, so, you know.
Yeah, and it's just the case, Toriyama, again, by his own admission, knows that he can't really do romance, and even Toyotaro's better efforts, it's a case where it would just feel out of place in something like Dragon Ball.
Yeah, but also with Kale, they've really hinted that she has more than just admiration for Caulifla. And I'm okay with that, because at least at that point, you have something to explore. And if Broly and Kale met, then it just means higher thresholds of power for Kale.
Yeah.
So I'm at least okay with that. But yeah, we basically get Goku coming in, giving them a house, giving them food to be able to last for years, promising he's going to come back because it's very much within range of where he can go.
Mm-hmm.
And the part that got a lot of people mad, and I can kind of see why, but was the ending, and that is, my name is Goku, but you can call me Kakarot. I thought that was a nice alluding to the previous movie.
Yeah, it just was a nice subtle nod to the previous movies, and I think that's pretty much all it was really meant to be.
Yeah, I honestly don't see Broly calling him Kakarot. I honestly see him calling him Goku. just because this is a different Broly than what we're used to.
Yep, which is why it probably won't wreck Vic Mignogna's vocal cords nearly as much.
And it actually gives something for him to do. Like, this Broly doesn't leave a whole lot for Vic to be able to grow with, but this Broly does. And so at that point, I'm actually very happy that they alluded to Broly being a part of the second part of Dragon Ball Super. Is that you could have so many stories told with Broly as part of it, instead of, having to rely on the cast of characters that people are kind of getting annoyed by.
Yeah, and even alternately, you don't even necessarily have to worry about including Broly into the series. You could even just have a straight-up spin-off where you just focus on Broly, Chilai, and Lenmo. I mean, I could even just see, like, if you're wanting to make a simple shonen sort of spin-off, just have it with, like, okay, you just have those three just kind of traveling throughout the universe.
Well, and the other thing that could technically happen out of that is that, nothing against Beerus. I like Beerus as a character, but having him, like, I agree with a lot of people. Beerus was horribly utilized in Resurrection F because he didn't need to be there. All he was there for was to remind Frieza that he still exists, kind of thing. And so at that point, this gives Goku someone else to be able to bounce off of so that we don't get tired of Whis and Beerus. Which is one of those things that I was really worried about in the latter parts of Super, is we are having way more interactions with Beerus and Whis than we probably should at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, the animators can only come up with so much food they can draw that will entice them into coming to Earth.
But it also... Here's the other thing that's really cool about it, is that Beerus and Whis can still be utilized. But now look at it from this perspective. Do we honestly think Goku told Vegeta what he did?
Well...
I honestly don't think he did. And the main reason being is that he, kind of like in Super, to bring Romney up to speed, there's a point in between Battle of Gods and Resurrection F where Vegeta has Whis and Beerus all to himself. Like, he works things out to his favor. He gets Beerus and Whis to bring him up for about 6 months more of training than Goku got. And a lot of people have kind of alluded that's why he's on par with Goku at that point. Because as soon as Goku finds out that he's had 6 months of training with Whis and Beerus, he is freaking out at that point. He's like, how on earth did he get there and I didn't? How come he didn't invite me? But I like the idea because it's Vegeta, for crying out loud. If he's getting one-up Kakarot or Goku, he's going to do everything in his way to be able to do that. But now, what we can do with Broly is Goku can still have his own weird motives and continue to train with Broly, and Vegeta can train with Beerus and Whis. And we can actually maybe get some character development in a different angle with Vegeta as compared to Goku.
Yeah, and that is definitely a way to kind of consider things. It really depends on how Toei and Toriyama decide to kind of continue with this, since things are very much in flux because they have written themselves into the corner of being like, we're between the gap that prior to the end of Z, and so
the other problem with Super is that now we've seen characters that are gods of destruction in training as far as power level because of the Tournament of Power. So at that point, it's already gotten people asking, like, do we actually see Goku being a god of destruction? And the consensus among the community is no. We don't really see him going that angle.
Yeah.
Vegeta, though, we could totally see going down that angle. And I'm not saying that he would replace Beerus, but he could get trained to the point where he could replace Beerus. And it would explain some of the power level spikes that Vegeta got in GT as well. So, like, if they do want to bridge that gap, they can.
Yeah, but all in all, since I think we've pretty much have covered all of our bases, all in all, this was a good movie. It had enough stuff to appeal to fans of the franchise that are either... After
Battle of Gods, I honestly didn't think they were going to have another good Dragon Ball movie for a while, and Broly has certainly not disappointed.
Indeed. I mean, if you haven't seen it already and you kind of missed the boat, you'll have to wait for it to come out on home video, because...
This was almost worth trudging through Resurrection F if we later on got this. Because Resurrection F, especially with what Resurrection F tried to do with a lot of the CG fighting sequences, it's very clear they didn't go to the exact same people who did those. I honestly do believe it was Arc System Works that they went to.
Or at the very least, they licensed the models, and maybe, for all we know, the animators probably saw what they did at Arc System and then just decided... Because I was looking at the credits, there was like so many studios. I know even Studio Kara was one of the animators.
Studio Kara was one of them.
Yeah, because Studio Kara actually knows how to do CG anime really well, because they did the cutscenes for Fire Emblem Fates and Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yes, and I think I actually looked up. Kara was one of the studios responsible for the Broly fight. So a lot of the flying around and everything like that we were seeing was Kara.
Yeah, and so at the very least, we're getting to a point where animators are now kind of understanding how to blend CG and 2D more effectively. I mean, and this is one thing that frustrates me, kind of a weird tangent. Disney made Paperman that did a perfect blend of CG and 2D, yet they still have not done anything with that technology.
No.
And now you've got Japanese studios that are beating them to the punch 3 times over, and I'm just like, Disney,
I'm okay with it.
What are you waiting for? You've had your chance.
I'm okay with it, but it's just because, if Disney wants to be arrogant about it, they can be arrogant about it. And I could totally see anime going this different direction and being able to push things forward. And it only helps things out because eventually other companies like Bones can acquire this, and we might be able to see even cooler fights in like My Hero Academia.
Well, yeah, because you've got Bones, Production IG. It's basically with the way the industry works, I can see a lot of anime studios kind of jumping on this, even just as a simple cost-cutting measure, because having CGI backgrounds saves time on production costs, because then you don't have to worry about layout, because if you have the same basic locations from show to show, that can make the pre-production process fly by.
But I'm going to say it once again, and I know that I'm being a broken record with it. Arc System Works, we know you worked on it. It's very clear you did. I want a reskin of Broly that I can go and get that is based off that movie. And if we can get another, pack of characters, which I've been kind of told there might be a second pack of characters that are coming to Fighters, I want Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta in there. But then again, I also want Super Saiyan 2 Kefla, so...
Yeah. Well, all I can really say is, before the camera is about to die, is if you haven't seen it already and you still can see it in theaters, see it in theaters. I highly recommend it. I'm not going to be giving my rating system because I don't see the point at this point. This has gone for like an hour. So
if you've been waiting many years for Broly to open up a grade A can of whoop ass, this is the movie where he does that.
Yep. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I'm kind of rushing the ending because my camera is literally about to die. So yeah, if you haven't seen it already, what are you waiting for? Go see it if you can. And if you can't see it, well...
And the coolest part is that we have an ultra negative review that we've done together with Ghostbusters. Didn't turn out to be that way. And now we have an ultra positive one with Broly.
Yep. Everything is in balance now. But on that note, that's all for this video. So, yeah, if you guys have seen Broly, what do you think? Is there some things that you've noticed that we didn't? Leave your comments below. And, well, we'll see you all for another review in the near future, depending on how things play out. But for now...
Vegeta, yes!
I don't know how to follow that up, people. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
What can I do with that?
That was the one thing I wish that Lenny Pator had done when they reviewed is like, Vegeta, yes!